I'm Amanda, and this is Not Your Granny's Quilt Show. Hello! Welcome to today's episode. I have Christina West. She is the lovely face and brain behind Kindred Quilt Co. She is a pattern designer. She is an art gallery socialite. Can you imagine a socialite on my show? I know, silly. Um, Anyway, her bundle is called whew, her bundle is called Wildflower Hill. She has fantastic color options in her bundle. She lives and loves the fairy butterfly life, and you can definitely see that in her makes and her color choices. And she is that way in person as well. I guess I only know over Zoom, but just talking to her, you definitely get that vibe from her. So it's very true to her, and it's just a great experience. If you don't know Christina, I hope you enjoy this episode. So let's get into it. This episode is sponsored by Unfold Integral Coaching. Hey, how many things are you doing right now? Listening to this podcast, that's one. Are you also driving, cooking, working out, scrolling social media? And what's on your mind? All those unanswered texts, that looming deadline, that worry about that issue that will just not go away? You've got a lot going on. In this crazy world, we all do. And we're losing touch with our natural ability for deep healing rest. That means most of us are living with a dysregulated nervous system that keeps us on edge during the day, wide awake at night, and snapping at the people we love most. But here's the thing. You have the power to shift your body from fight or flight to rest and digest. And Christina Bonnet Acosta, a Stanford-educated integral coach, wants to teach you how for free. She's offering a no-cost 30-minute coaching session to 50 out of 90,000 listeners for the holidays. You'll log out of Zoom feeling deeply relaxed and equipped with 2 proven techniques for finding calm in any chaos. Buddhist teacher Lama Pema Dragpa describes Christina as one of the most caring and insightful people he has ever encountered. And a past client said, "For me, every session with Christina has meant real, long-lasting transformation." So, if you're tired of being held hostage by your own nervous system, grab your free session at www.christinabonnet.com. The link will be in the show notes. Grab it before it goes back to its normal price of 65 euros or 70 US dollars. You're just 30 minutes away from finding flow in your body, mind, and life. Have you gotten your hands on some Not Your Granny's Quilt Show merch yet? Well, if not, the shop is there for you. If you head to nygqs.printify.me, you can shop now. There's sweatshirts, t-shirts, a mug, sticker, 3 sizes of tote bag in different colors. Go grab something today. Everything is super high quality. I personally have everything in the shop and use it and wear it because I want to know that what I'm providing to you is of good quality. And let me tell you what, everything is great. It washes and wears so well. I have loved everything. So go get yourself a t-shirt or a sweatshirt today, or even that trusty old mug, and show your love for the show. That is nygqs.printify, printify.me, and get your merch today. And now let's get on to the show. I just like to get everything on. What were you going to
Um,
say?
I was gonna say, I love that you're going through and like getting all the socialites.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so fun. I was going back and like listening to like Ashland's. I hadn't
Hmm.
seen that one because that was
Oh,
back in like February, I think.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
was a while ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, she's got everybody.
We're just missing Taylor.
Yeah. She's did she respond to you or has she messaged you
She
back?
said, like, because you guys were at Art Gallery at the time. And so
Uh-huh.
she's like, I'm away. Like, I'll get back to you. And she hasn't yet. So I was going to reach out to her and be like, hey, get on my schedule.
Do that because she has ADHD like me and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Me
probably
too.
gone.
So there's times where I'm like, I should message that person. I'll like go and I'm like, oh, I already sent them a message. Like,
Just do it again.
yeah. I'm like, hey, just checking in. Yeah. No, I'm excited. And it's funny because like I got to Ashlyn before I lied. She got to me because I had put out like in one of the episodes was like, if you want to be on the show, like let me know. Cause it was like it gets overwhelming to try to figure out like who to ask. Like I love so many designers and quilters and it's
Uh-huh.
just like I want to talk to everyone, but then that's when I like get overwhelmed and shut down. So I was like, if you want to be on the show or you have something to promote, like message me or like email me and like let's set it up. And so she requested, she's like, I'll be on your show. And I was like, hell yeah. So, but
That's
meeting
so
her
cool.
was fantastic. And then, yeah, and then the socialite stuff came out and I was like, holy crap, like this is so fun. And yeah, anyway, so it was a whole thing. But
Well, I'm so glad you reached out. Thanks for having me.
yeah, of course. Yeah, thanks for being on the show. I'm so excited and I can't
Yes.
wait to just like learn more about you. I've always like as when I found you, which I don't even know how long ago it was. It's been a while, but like when I found you, I was like, this is one of my people because I'm a color girl. Like my quilts are packed with color.
I need all of the color.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just was like, I can't ever get sick of looking at your stuff and like,
Thank you.
ugh, I just can't wait to talk all about it. So
Yes.
yeah, but um like I don't know because I haven't done like I try not to do too much research because I don't want to like come into it knowing so many things. So like I don't yeah, like where did you start sewing and quilting and like let's go all the
Yes.
way back to the beginning.
So I first started quilting in it was late 2013, early 2014. So I'm about to hit my 10-year mark,
Mm,
which is really fun. I started quilting when I was pregnant with my son, and it was sort of out of necessity. That's a little dramatic, but
mm,
um, I wanted this like I wanted a cool nursery. We had a small one-bedroom apartment and there was like it was like 500 square feet and we had this like space. It wasn't like a second bedroom, but we had this
mhm.
space. And I was like, I want to decorate it and make it so cute. Um, and I wanted nursery bedding and it was too expensive on Etsy. And so I have the like how hard can it be gene. So I
Mhm.
was like, I'm gonna figure this out. So I saw some uh, who was it? It was a blog post from
Mm.
somebody forever ago, but it was these beautiful triangle quilts. And the one
Mm.
I saw was pink and black and white. And I had a boy, and so I wanted like minty and neutral colors.
Mm.
And so I figured it out and I made it. And I didn't have a sewing machine at the time, so I did it all by hand. And I had no idea what I was
Oh,
doing.
oh my gosh.
Yep. And I figured it out. And it turned out okay. Like, looking at it now, I laugh. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much I did wrong," right?
Right,
Whatever,
yeah.
quote, unquote, that whatever that means.
Yeah.
But, it turned out so good, and I was so proud of myself, and, um, at the time, I was working as a manager at Potbelly Sandwich Shop.
Mm,
I
mhm.
love their sandwiches if you've never had Potbelly.
I think we
Um,
have one in our I think we have one like in our courthouse, like it's like attached to the building. So anyway.
I ate it like every day my whole pregnancy.
Mm.
Potbelly. Also because I worked there, but also
Yeah.
because I loved it. But um, at the time, I was looking for a way to make more income because I
Mm.
really wanted to try to be at home more, and also daycare was outrageously expensive. I
Yeah.
couldn't afford it, and so once again, sort of out of necessity, and encouragement from my dear, dear husband. He
Mm.
was like, "These are so good. You should try to sell them." And I was like, "I will." And that's how it started. So,
Wow. That's
yeah.
so fun. It's like it's so funny the things that like we just see and we're like, I can make that. Like I'll figure it out.
I'll
And
figure it out.
yeah, I love that because I think sometimes like that's the kind of attitude you need to just like get through life. Like honestly,
Yeah.
like how hard can this be? Like or just know that everything has a solution. Like
Yeah.
and sometimes it's born out of necessity and sometimes it's born out of just like pure stubbornness in my case. But
Yep.
like
Hmm.
oh yeah, watch me. Like
Yep.
but that's so cool. And so you were selling like finished quilts on Etsy or
Yeah. So I guess a little more backstory. When I told my grandma I made this quilt,
Mhm.
she wasn't a quilter, my mom wasn't a quilter, but my great grandma, so my
Okay.
grandma's mom was a quilter. And she was like, "Your great grandma was a quilter." I never got to meet her.
Mhm.
And she was like, "I have her sewing machine. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yes, of course I want it. I'll try it." And so it was a Singer 401,
Oh.
which is like, I don't know, they're a really good machine, and that's what I
Mhm.
learned on. Um, and so I got that, and I looked at YouTube and Susie Quilts' blog, and
Yeah.
and I just taught myself how to sew on the machine, and then yeah, I made like a handful of quilts. I mean, this was not a business. I was like
Mhm.
making like I was underselling or undercharging
Yeah.
my quilts on Etsy just to sell them, and but people bought them, and I was like so happy when I made that first sale,
Yeah.
and and then that eventually turned into a business, which we can get into later. But
Yeah, yeah, for
um,
sure.
but yeah, that's how it all started. And Etsy
Wow.
was at the time was great.
Mhm.
Um, so
It's a
yeah,
shit show now, but
yeah, it's
that's a
crazy.
different story.
I have like a love hate relationship with Etsy because
I know.
it, like, allowed me to do what I did, but then
Mhm.
also it's like, "What are you doing now?"
Mhm. Yeah, I'm in
Yeah,
that boat right now, and
yep.
it's crazy, but anyway. Yeah. So how long did you like sell quilts on there before you like turned yourself into a business?
So, I probably sold quilts for about a year. It was really discouraging at first because, like, the first one took forever to sell, and
Mhm.
then I think the next one, it took, like, 3 months to sell.
Mhm.
Um, and then I don't know. I was still working at Potbelly because
Mhm.
I wasn't making enough money selling 5 quilts on Etsy. And
Right.
so I I had also made his crib sheets and all of
Mm.
his bedding. So I figured out how to do all that. And so I was like, well, quilts are expensive.
Mhm.
That price point is probably out of price range for people. What can I sell that could be more affordable? Because that's the whole reason I did this was so I could get something more affordable because that bedding I wanted was like too much money.
Right.
And so I started selling crib sheets
Mm.
um, on Etsy, and then it turned into kind of like all custom bedding,
Mm.
and it was slow at first, but after about 3 months, I got shared on Etsy's front page, and then
Mm.
from there, it exploded. And
Wow.
so I was full on just making crib sheets and then quilts sometimes, but it was mostly just crib sheets and custom baby bedding. Um, and that ended up being successful enough for me to completely quit my job
Wow.
and just do that at home.
Mhm.
And so I did that until about 2017.
Okay.
Um, and then I am not a business manager or a financial person. And so there were some mistakes I made running my business. And I got really overwhelmed, very burnt out, wasn't able to manage my time or my whatever well. And
Mhm.
so I ended up stopping that and took a step back and a break. Um, and so I stopped sewing for a while until I
Mhm.
came back after COVID. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And like what was that break like for you? Like what did you fill your time with? If you weren't sewing, like what were you
Yeah.
exploring in that time?
So I was mostly chasing around my son. Um, and then I wasn't working. I'm privileged enough that my husband's able to like support us
Mhm.
through his job. And so I was mostly just running him around. I was doing some small business adventures, like I was doing headbands, selling
Mm.
headbands with my friend at local craft shows. And then we also were renovating our house. So we renovated our house and sold it. And then we bought another house and
Mhm.
renovated it and sold it. So my time was pretty much filled with home renovation.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, after 2020 hit, I had to, we pretty much couldn't do anything. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was homeschooling my son because he wasn't in school.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and
Wow.
then and then I started quilting again because I was like, I want to quilt. Like, I don't want to do crib sheets.
Yeah.
I don't want to do custom things for other people. I want to do what I want to do. So,
Right.
yep,
Yeah. Well, and sometimes I think we have to take a step back from the thing we love so much and go, what, like, especially, like you said, you were burnt out and there were mistakes were made, and you just kind of have to step back and go, what am I doing?
yeah,
Like,
for
I love
sure.
this, but also it's killing me. Like, I had to do the same thing with teaching. Like, I loved my kids and I loved being with kids all the time.
Yep,
Well, not all the time, but
I,
like a lot of the time,
I get it.
And so, but I was so sick all the time. It's just like there was all these signs that it just was not good for me. And so
Yeah,
stepping back and going, what am I doing to myself? And like giving myself space, it's like, oh, I probably shouldn't do that anymore. And like, yeah, like finding the love again of the things that you loved before and being able to like take a new perspective on it is like, it is kind of a privilege, right? Because if you're not just
yeah,
like stuck in survival mode, like so many people are, you can take that time, and it's risky either way, but it's worth it if you can. And like
yeah.
it gives you a new
And
perspective on your life.
as much as like having a thriving business turn into like a not successful business, I as much as that sucked,
Mhm,
I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity because it has allowed my current what I'm doing now. I learned a lot, and I know where I failed. I know where my maybe I set too high of expectations or over promised and under delivered, and so
mhm,
now I know like, and I was able to like, I'm able to recognize where maybe I am having unhealthy behaviors or habits.
mhm,
During that time, that's when I found out I had ADHD. And
mm,
so that was a whole learning experience. And so now I'm able to like recognize when I'm not being healthy, like you said, or when I'm, oh man, I'm really burnt out, or oh, I'm having trouble like with my executive dysfunction.
yeah,
um, something's going on if I'm not being healthy right now.
yeah,
With my like personal life and my business life because those are kind of one and the same at this point.
right. Yeah, it's
So
like when you're self-employed and you work out of your own home, or like if like for me, I work out of my parents' house, so it's like still the same thing. It's like it's with me wherever I go, and it's like it's hard to separate, but also, yeah, you have to like look at how it's affecting both, because if you're always bringing, you know, if you're always in that same environment, it is really hard to separate. So being
yes,
mindful of like knowing yourself more is like so crucial to from my perspective, and in my opinion, like if you don't know yourself well enough to understand when you're burnt out, or when you're like if you're like doing unhealthy things all of a sudden, like, oh, something must be going on. Like so many people don't recognize that, but when you can, it's like you have so much more control and you have so
yes,
much more power because you've given voice to those things. And like, and I think too, for women in business, it's like I totally identify with like the underselling, because or like undercharging, because at first when we were starting our business, we were undercharging for everything. And I was like, we're literally losing money on every single quilt we make. Like, this is
hmm,
crazy. And like my mom and I, like I felt anxious about it, but I knew like enough about business because my husband is like super into business and has always been, and he's always like dragged me through like learning stuff. I'm like, do I want to know this? But I'm like so grateful because now I know so many things, and like can correct those mistakes when we start finding them, like, oh, actually this isn't going well, we should probably fix that. But like anyway, so
yes,
just that idea of like, no, just because I'm a woman and making a craft, like a handmade thing, doesn't mean that it's worth less than anything else. Like, just because it's not coming out of Pottery Barn doesn't mean that I should charge less for it. Like, Not that I'm looking
Yeah.
to make millions of dollars, it'd be nice, but also it's like there's a reality in all of it that's like, if I'm not making any money, then like I can't continue this business and I really want to. And, or even if you don't want to, it's like, how do you find that balance? And it's hard, I think, for women, especially because we feel like we've got this like muzzle on our faces that we can't really say, hey, this isn't fair to me, because then we're, perceived as whiny or perceived as like not grateful. And it's like, excuse me.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Or like, I am such a people pleaser,
Ugh,
and
me too. Oh my
that
God, me
comes
too.
from probably trauma and but
Right.
also like expectations that society I feel like puts on women. And so like
Mm-hmm.
I am such a people pleaser, and so I feel guilt. Why do I feel guilt when I like charge what my time is worth? Like,
Yeah.
why? I don't
Yeah.
know.
I know.
It's something that I've definitely had to like almost deconstruct from in the
Mhm.
last in this whole adventure that I've I've
Yeah.
taken upon myself. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a crazy lesson to learn too. It's like, because it is, that guilt is like so deep in your bones. It's like, how do I do this and feel reasonable about it and not feel like I have to justify myself? Like,
justify.
I'm allowed to say, no, actually, it costs this. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's not rude. And I think that's like something that is hard too, is like feeling like by standing my ground, or like by saying, no, this is how my business is run, and like setting that boundary or that rule, it's like that good girl, quote unquote, good girl conditioning. It's like makes you think you're being rude when really you're just being a normal person. Like
Yes,
you're
yes.
allowed to say those things, and it's not
Are
rude just
boundaries
because
hard?
they're so hard.
Why are
And like,
they so hard?
I don't know. Well, and I've been learning like, because it's like kind of nuanced almost in that like there's a difference between boundaries and rules, and boundaries
Yes.
have to do with your own personal behavior, and rules are how you expect other people to act. So it's like if I tell, I mean, my husband, for example, but he never yells. So like, don't anybody get this wrong. But say my husband's like raising his voice when we're having a discussion or something, and I say, I don't want to talk to you when you're raising your voice that way because it's very triggering to me. Well, that's a rule. It's not a boundary. My boundary would be that I get up and leave the room. Like, does that make
Yes.
sense? So anyway.
Yes. No, I just learned this. I just learned this, that it's not, you can't do this. It's,
Yeah.
this is what I will do if you continue. And so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that's been a whole thing, and
Mhm.
incorporating that not just with people, but then with my own time, right? And my business. Like my
Yeah.
business needs to respect my boundaries, and like, what
Mhm.
does that look like? And it's very,
Yeah.
it's weird to think about. So
I know.
it's a
It is.
learning experience for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's hard, but I think the more, at least for me, the more I practice it, the easier it gets to like just come at it from like a neutral space too. Cause I think at first in business, it's like people reject your proposal, or people will say, hey, I want this, da da da. We'll give them a quote. And if they're like, whoa, that's too expensive, I used to get so defensive and like,
Hmm.
well, not like maybe to them, but like in my heart, it's like my feelings. I felt so defensive and like so judged. And maybe that's where like the people pleasing comes from, is like we're like undercharging. It's like you feel guilty because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings by making it unattainable for them. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like, but then this business is unattainable for me and da, 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 like I don't know. Anyway.
It's a therapy session today.
Yes. I mean, it's what I'm here for. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like mega deep in therapy right now. So I'm just like, all these things are constantly swirling in my head. And like, my husband's in school for counseling, like, he's getting his master's in counseling right now. So it's just literally nothing but counseling over here all the time.
Great.
But
I love it.
it's great. It is really good.
Yeah.
It's just like, how do I not vomit all of this on everybody I meet? Anyway, so, okay. So then after the pandemic, you started
Mhm.
Kindred Quilt Co. And
Yes.
Doing
So
patterns?
my yeah, so kind of. Uh my business name's changed so many times I can't remember. um so before it was Kindred Quilt Co, it was West End Arrow. That was my whole business name, which is so funny because I actually sold that, like, my website and my social media handles, to a company called West End Arrow
Oh my gosh.
Lighting,
Oh,
and they sell lights at Target. Just a fun fact.
that's crazy.
I should have sold it for more. I didn't sell it for enough. It's it's the
Or
lesson that
royalties.
everyone needs to take for, yeah, I know, right? Um, no, but so sometime in mid 2021, I think is when it was, is when I really started like showing up on social media. Again, I had been on Instagram since 2016. Um, which Instagram back then was so different.
It was so
And
different.
so yeah, and so when I came back, I was like, who are all these people? Like, who, they all know each other. I feel like an imposter just kind of showing up, and I
Yeah.
didn't have very many followers, and which isn't something I was like that was important to me at all. But I just started like showing up and posting, and the community was so amazing. They were just like, "Hi, welcome to the Instagram quilting community. We love
Yeah.
you." And it just re I already loved quilting, but the community on Instagram just like reignited this passion. Like, there were people that were interested in what I made and were asking me questions, and I was so inspired by all of them, and like it
Mhm.
just like immediately felt like a family, which is a little culty, but it was fun. And so yeah,
What are you gonna
it
do?
might be. And so um yeah, I started posting, and then I started testing,
Mhm.
and the reason I even got into testing was because I had so many years of experience. I noticed that there were a lot of like newer pandemic quilters coming into the community, and like I wanted to help these new designers, like, because I had so much experience with like not pattern writing, but like I had seen so many patterns and how they
Mhm.
were written, and I had learned so much. Like, I wanted to be able to share that with other designers and
Yeah.
other quilters, and so I was testing. Um, and then I got into designing patterns. Just one day I had an idea and I was like, "Look at this cool idea." And everyone was like, "You need to make this into a pattern." And I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing." So
You're like,
I
"Cool.
yeah.
How do I
So
do that?"
once again, the how hard can it be, Jean? So I went to Canva and I
Yeah.
drafted my first pattern in Canva, which I don't recommend anybody do.
I
It's
was
so
gonna
hard.
say, how was that? Because that sounds
It was hard.
crazy.
It was very hard.
Oh my
It took
gosh.
way too many hours, but I did it, and then I fell in love with designing patterns and writing them. So
Wow.
that's where I am.
Yay, that's so fun, and, like, just a testament to that gene, like, it's strong and, it can take you places. Because I think, sometimes people try a business and it fails, and then they say sayonara to it altogether, and they just, go find something else to do, which is fine, like, do what you wanna do, but I think that, like, not giving up on it and not giving up on your ideas and yourself is, like, so important because especially if you feel strongly about it or strongly that you have something to give to the community as a whole, like, then do it. Find out how to do it. And it's sometimes hard because you do have to dig a lot and you have to ask a lot of questions. And that vulnerability can be scary sometimes, but it's super worth it on the other side. And like you were saying, 99% of the quilt community on Instagram is just a bunch of warm, fuzzy babes who just want to welcome everybody in. And like, it's so great out there, right? So encouraging, and it feels like non-competitive and just like everybody's voice gets to be heard and shared and seen, and we lift each other up, and it's like that makes it even more fun because it's like, "Oh my gosh, my friends are going to be so excited about this thing I just found out," or like so
Yes.
happy to support me when I share this new thing I'm making or whatever. Like it just feels so good to be out there. So That's like it's cool that you joined at that time too, because I think that's when we were all just like seeking connection because we had been completely cut off from all the connection points we had outside of our homes.
Yes.
And like, so I think people were really coming together to create that because they were craving it and did it in a space where it was still safe, right? Like
Yes.
we're gonna get each other sick on the internet. And
Yep.
I just love seeing what's come out of that because it's like I was still teaching when everything shut down and it was the worst thing.
I can't imagine. I mean, I did
But
homeschool. I did homeschool for my son didn't get to finish kinder.
yeah.
So we did like the virtual, like whatever. And our teacher did fine, but I was like, this is not gonna work for me. Like
Yeah.
I'm not, he's a kid, I can't have him sit down in front of a computer. He's not gonna do
No.
it.
It's not
So
realistic. They need to
yeah.
play.
Well, and then so I did homeschool and
Yeah.
like, it was really rewarding to see him read, but
Yeah.
in that moment, I was like, "This is not what I want. I don't wanna be a teacher." And I can't imagine how anybody is a teacher. Like,
I
it's
know.
not for me. My son was like, "Can you keep homeschooling me?" I was like, "Absolutely not. You're going back to school."
0% chance.
Uh, yes, it's
Yeah.
not my thing,
Yeah.
but bless all the teachers, so
Yeah. I think I like got into teaching because I was homeschooled. My little brother ran away from kindergarten and I was in first grade. And so then my mom was like, screw it, I'm homeschooling you. And I was like, how could you do this to me? I loved school. And so I think having been taken out of it, which as an adult now, I can understand how scary that is. And like we
Mhm.
lived kind of it's a hugely busy road now, and at the time when we were little, like, it was still pretty busy, but not like it is now, but still, it's like when your five-year-old is walking down this busy road in the rain because he went away from kindergarten because his old lady teacher was so mean, like, that's
Oh,
terrifying, right? So, like, of course,
yes.
you're gonna remove your kid from that environment, but anyway, it wasn't my experience, so I was pissed, and so then I was like, "Well, I'm gonna go be a teacher, and I'm gonna prove that school's fine." And it just broke me, so
Hard. I cannot imagine.
yeah.
It's
So
rough.
yeah. So, like, because I had already started quilting, like, a few years before that, so I was already, like, monitoring quilters on TikTok like a vulture, and, we had the business, but I wasn't really doing much because I was teaching, and after, the 2020-2021 school year, like, I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm gonna dive full time into the business. I'm gonna give it everything I've got. And my husband was like, do it. You should. Like your husband, he's just like super supportive. Whatever you want to
Good.
do. Like we have we haven't flipped anything really, but I mean, mildly. We bought a duplex like 2 years after I started teaching and we renovated our side of it because we lived in half of it and then sold it and bought the one we're in now and slowly fixed some things. And now we do Airbnb out of the main floor because it's got the master suite on the main floor. And like we just live in the upstairs. But anyway, so, we've got some real estate stuff going on and, you know, just some other things happening that allow us a little bit of flexibility and comfort to do that. But anyway, it's
Yeah.
just like if that was going to be the time to do it, like that was the time to do it.
And it's also scary, like, I mean, leaving your job, leaving the security of like a paycheck to like go do something else and
Yeah.
you get really resourceful. Like I we were willing to really do anything and like we
Yeah.
did do the renovation stuff and that really helped. Like it
Yeah.
really, really helped, which we did that all ourselves. We figured it out. YouTube is like
Oh my
a
gosh.
godsend.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's taught me so much that I use every day now, and TikTok's even better.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, we did everything ourselves too in both houses. Well, we hired somebody to help with the flooring in the first house because we had never done vinyl plank before, but now we've done it so
Mhm.
many times that we're just
So
like,
many
oh,
times.
guess we're doing vinyl plank again. Like, it's fine. And I love it. It's great. It's a lot of work. But anyway, yeah, like we did everything ourselves because we're like, we know how to do all these things. Like, and I'm like you, like I'm not afraid to figure stuff out. I'm like, how hard can it be? Like
Yeah.
if
If I
these
mess up, well then
Yeah.
We just messed up. Whoops.
Right. Well, and I think too, I used to be so scared of trying things because I'm like, oh, what if I mess it up? And then, you know, my husband's going to be mad or my dad's going to be, it's like there was always some fear of somebody being mad at me for messing up. But then I'm would like, no, like that's so silly because if they messed it up, like I'm not going to be mad at them. It's just like, oops, oh well, we got to fix it. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, it sucks because you're like, oh my God, I have to go to Home Depot again. Like,
Yes.
oh, good. I've already been there 3 times today. Um, but anyway, so I think that that attitude, it's like if I can switch my brain into like how hard can it be for quilting or for the things that I want to do, like learning how to handle power tools and how to like hang things on the wall or like install flooring, it's like the same concept. It's like you just have to find the how to, the YouTube videos, a lot of
Yeah.
YouTube
There's a
videos.
YouTube video for it, I promise.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I'd share it with my husband, be like, okay, this is what I found. Here's how I'm planning on attacking this. Like, just to get his perspective, or because he's super handy and he'd be like, oh, yeah, that looks great. Or he'd be like, actually, I found that when, I get to this part, this actually works better. And so just kind of talking through it. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And he's like, do you want help? I'm like, if you hear me screaming, then I do. But no, like, I want to figure this out myself. Like, and I think it's coming out of that like victim attitude that sometimes, like, especially as women, we can take on and just be like, well, I need a man's help. No, you
Yeah.
don't. No, you don't.
No, we don't. No, you don't.
Like, great.
And I feel like it's hard too, because like it's for quilting too, like
Mhm,
it not only is it like for me at least, I don't know if it's like this for everybody, but it's like my baby. And
mm,
like sometimes it's scary to like start something or like try something new. One, because like you don't want to mess it up and you're,
mhm.
I don't know, like sometimes I'm trying to like break this mentality, but sometimes I'm like, how will other people like it? How will they perceive it? And I'm trying to be
Yeah.
like, I don't care what other people think. But
Yeah.
also it's like an expensive hobby. So
Yeah.
like cutting into
Yeah.
your fabric is like scary, and it's like, oh no, what if I mess up? Like,
Mhm.
what if I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to like, and I'm a lot better about it now. Like just cut into
Yeah.
it. Just
Yeah.
it's gonna be
It's
okay. You'll have
it's
some
just
scraps.
fabric.
It's just
Yeah.
fabric.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm that same way too. It's like I have fabric stash that I'm just like hanging on to. Like I don't want to hate what I make with it because then I'll feel
Yes.
so bad. And then I'm like, oh, what if I hack into it and then I find something better I want to make? It's like all these what ifs, right? But it's like, okay, but what if I die tomorrow and I never used this fabric? And then I guess my mom
Hmm.
gets to keep some really great fabric. But
I
like,
thought about like how much it will be left over. I was just like, this is way
yeah,
too much. I have to use it. Wow.
yeah. No, exactly. It's like I'd rather have made a quilt and then at the end of the day, someone that I love gets that quilt versus like a stack of fabric that maybe they don't know what to do with? So
Yes.
I'm slowly trying to like make myself cut into the fabric I have stashed up and a lot of it's like OG cotton and steel and like Ruby Star
Hmm.
and I've got some good rifle paper I've been hanging on to, some Tula, so it's like good stuff, but
I got
anyway.
into Liberty like
Ooh,
like a year and a half ago,
yeah.
and it's just so great. And I can't. I'm like, I can't. Yes, I can. I can't though. I can't kind of do it. So
It's
I'm
like
waiting for like the perfect scrappy project, I think, and
yeah,
I'll go for it. But
yeah. Well, and it's like kind of spendy, right? So sorry, I've got something in
yes,
my mouth.
yes, I like am very thrifty. I bought like a shirt,
Hmm.
like it was a Liberty shirt, and I cut it up, and now I have like a half yard of Liberty. I was like,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Have you
So,
seen Amory? She's the next gen quilter. Yeah,
yes,
she like
yes,
does that all the time and I'm always
she
like
did
so
the
proud
same
of her.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's like, I saved this much Liberty from the trash. And I'm like, go girl.
yes, and it was a discount. Like
Yeah.
it was cheaper, or I think it ended up being cheaper for her, but it definitely ended up being cheaper for me. I
Yeah.
found it on like, I don't know, some resale website.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
pronounce it.
Mm,
So,
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
something.
it's cool when you can find fabric like that like and there's like these like boutique kids clothes places that they literally make these, like, cute little dresses for, like, little girls out of quilting cotton, and, like,
Mhm.
I'm just like, "Oh my god, that's this fabric," or whatever, it's like and so when we get to make, like, memory quilts or, just, like, keepsake quilts that's like, "Oh, these are all the clothes from my daughter's first year," or, like, her outfits that she had pictures taken in or whatever it is, like,
Mhm.
and then we get stuff like that, I'm like, yes, this is so great because we're getting to salvage this fabric and, like, use it in a quilt, so it's
Yes.
not just, like, tossed in the trash like, "Oh, well," or just, like, kept in a box. It's, like, getting repurposed and reused for something so cool, and, like, that's always so fun.
So do you like making t-shirt quilts?
Yes, like, I know
And I
people
do
hate it.
too. No, I
I
love
think
it.
it's so fun,
Me
and,
too.
like, it used to intimidate me, but, like, my mom, she's very much just like, "Pff, I can do that,"
Yeah.
and so growing up with that, like, I've watched her make so many crazy things, and she would just attack these t-shirt quilts like it was nothing, and so with some guidance and just, like, learning, I've got that same attitude now. It's like I love hacking up like, clothing to turn it into something usable for these people, and, like, we get a lot of memory quilts, like, there's not a lot of people out there that will do it, and so
Yeah.
the
I whenever I was, like, in between stuff, I would post on Facebook Marketplace, like,
mhm,
t-shirt quotes, and once again, I was undercharging. But, I got so many, like, sports and graduations and then, like, memory quilts for, like, parents that may have passed away, and
yeah,
I love it. I love t-shirt quilts so much, but I
yeah,
feel like people don't not everyone likes to make them, which I
yeah,
understand,
yeah.
but I
It can
disagree.
be hard, but and also we don't cut everything to be the same exact size unless, like, somebody's like, "No, I want, like, a legit pattern, like, quilt pattern with them." Then, we'll cut whatever we need to do, but typically we just try to use, like, the biggest usable pieces and, like, incorporate the cool stuff like pockets and, like, ruffles or, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and so not everything is the exact same size.
It's like the
And
mosaic,
yeah.
kinda patchworky. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of fun because it doesn't come out cookie cutter like, "Oh, everything's a 12-inch square." It's like which I totally get why people do that too. Streamlining the process is important for you if that's something if you're focusing on t-shirt quilts and you wanna get through a lot at a time, there are ways that you do that, but, like, it's something we've really decided is like, no, we want everyone to be unique. We want every single person to feel like their quilt is special because it's theirs, it's like it doesn't look like
Mhm.
anybody else's, and so, yeah, and recently, which I guess it was, like, about a year and a half ago, we had somebody reach out and ask if we could incorporate her bridesmaid's dress into a baby quilt for the friend whose wedding she was in,
Aw.
and so we did that. I was like, "That's strange," like, but yeah, totally, depending on what the material is, and, it's just, like, dress lining, it wasn't anything spectacular, but I worked it into a quilt and it was great, and then she hired me to do another one, and now we're doing another one for her, and then randomly someone else hired us to do one at the same time, like, so that's kind of been fun because it's like, you don't have to keep that dress in your closet, you can use it for something
Yeah.
different, and getting to, like, incorporate it into a baby quilt for that family is, like it's just, like, such a fun concept, and so that's been interesting, but yeah, anyway, yeah, it's super fun, and I like the idea of, you know yeah, like, taking those things and not just putting them in, like, a cedar chest or a box for to give to your kid when they're grown up for them to be like, "What am I supposed to do with this?"
Mhm.
Like, they can have a quilt instead, and so, anyway, yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Okay, back to you because I feel
Okay.
like I've been talking about me
I'm
so
asking
much, and
you
I'm like,
questions.
"I need to stop talking about myself." Um, so when did you like, obviously, I know there was a deadline, but, like, how did being a socialite come to your attention? Did somebody, like, share it with you, or did you just see it on their Instagram or
So
yeah.
I'd seen it, like, on their Instagram, like, hours after they posted it, and I, like, was like, "I'm gonna apply, why not?" Like, I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
Um, and so after I didn't get approached, I guess. They didn't reach out to me. It had been a while. I know some
Mm,
people got, like, asked immediately after. I think was probably like a little break there, and then started asking more people. I know Pat had such a hard time. There were a lot of applicants, and
Mhm.
when I talked to her about it, she was like, "I like hate this. Like I
Yeah.
hate having to choose."
Yeah.
And she loved everybody, and she loved reading. She read every single application. She
Oh
read
my
every single
gosh.
story. Like one of the questions was, "Why do you love AGS?" And like she
Mm.
read every single one, and it was hard for her to choose, I think.
Oh, I bet.
Um, but yeah, she just messaged me on Instagram, and I was like, "What?
You're like, "I'm sorry, who are you?"
Oh my gosh, what is happening?" And so we did a video chat, which was so cool. Pat's so nice. And yeah, she asked me, and I was like, "Yes, absolutely." And then when we were talking about like what we're gonna do, and we were gonna get a bundle, like
Mhm.
just to have just my name at all associated with like the fabric that I originally started sewing with. Like that's Art Gallery's like the first fabric. I don't know if anyone's been sewing for a while, but like the very first fabric I ever got was the Indie collection from designed by Pat Bravo from Art Gallery.
Oh.
And so like just to know that like my name was gonna be at all, like, even just a smidge attached to, like, Art Gallery at all. I was just like, "That's, like, the biggest thing that I could ever think of."
Yeah.
So yeah, and
Oh my
it's been
gosh.
such a fun experience. Um, I mean, it's nice to be able to get fabric, like, we get to request fabric for, like, any of the projects that we're making, and
Mhm.
so that's nice,
Yeah.
but it's been so fun to see, like, people make things with my curated bundle,
Yeah.
um, like, because I just wanna share color,
Mhm.
and, just that every people mine is very rainbow,
Mhm.
and so just to be able to share that with people, and then people use it, and then it's just the best. I love it. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's
yeah.
so fun. I just, like, can't even imagine. I mean, I can because I have also loved art gallery for, like, as soon as I discovered it, like, early in my quilting, I was like, "What is this?" Like, because of
Mhm.
the thread count and the weave, like, it just feels so different, and I've got my mom obsessed now, which I'm, like, really proud of myself for, but my very first, like, art gallery designer love was Katerina. So,
Mhm.
I'm obsessed about her. But when she said she'd be on the show, I was, like, losing my shit.
I need to go back and see that. I
Yeah,
didn't know.
she's like one of our very first interviews, and so my friend Miranda was still part of the show back then, like, she helped me start it, and so there's a few interviews with her involved, but yeah, she was there, and oh my god, I had been testing for her, so I, like, had some
Uh,
rapport with her, so it wasn't, like, out of the blue, and at the time, it was our show was so new, and I was just like, I didn't know what I was doing, whatever, and so anyway, so I'm sure that feeling is very similar where you're just like, "I cannot believe this person is talking to me right now."
so you've
Like,
been talking to me.
yeah,
Which is so funny because if you ever get a chance to talk to Pat, she's like the most down to earth, like sweet, like I was like, why did I build this up in my head? Like she's
right?
really cool.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Well, I think it's like it's just like with anything, even if it's like a celebrity or, someone who is making something that you really love and that impacts your life, just getting to talk to them and like, it's like that admiration is there because they're doing something really cool and then like they might be a super down to earth person. Same thing with Katarina. She's just so kind and so sweet and like same thing. I'm like, well, she's gonna say no. And she was like
But she said
immediately
yes.
like, yeah, immediately. She was like, of course. I was like, oh my God.
How
So
nice. I'll have
anyway,
to go back and look at that episode. That's fun.
yeah, I was literally fangirling. It was crazy. But yeah, it was super fun, and so I can imagine it kind of probably felt like that, just like
Yeah, it
elation.
definitely did.
and just, like, feeling seen, like, "Oh my god," like, somebody's seeing this person I admire is seeing what I'm doing and feels inspired by it enough to allow me to do this, like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm still like when she approached me, like I struggle with imposter syndrome
Mm,
so bad. I
mhm.
have no idea. If anyone is watching this, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing.
Me either.
Not a
Ah,
clue. I'm just
we have
winging
that in
it.
common.
and um and I'm trying to just embrace that. Like I'm not here to put up like any kind of front. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But the fact that like she even like was just like why? And then that weird guilt stuff comes in and then I'm like I don't deserve this. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not like when I heard she like told me everybody who she had asked and had said yes up until that point and I
Mhm,
was like, "Oh my gosh." Like these girls, some of them I've like followed forever and like
mhm.
they have their stuff together and they know what they're doing and
Yeah.
they have books or they have, this like
Mhm.
I felt very not um just like why did
Mm.
you pick me? But then, I got picked for a reason and
Mhm.
I'm have to constantly tell my dear husband again, who's just telling me that. He's like, stop, like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? You're fine.
Yeah.
um so that was a struggle and I still struggle with that too, I think.
Mhm,
Just like seeing other designers that I look up to
mhm,
consistently putting out patterns and like I still haven't streamlined any process
mhm.
or seeing people use color in ways that like I can't or I don't feel like I can do and
Mhm.
so um but I always have to tell myself, "It's fine, I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Like,
doing good."
it's happening whether you can accept it or not, like,
Yeah, mhm.
it's fine. Um, okay, so your bundle is called Wildflower Hill?
Yes, uh-huh,
Okay, okay, and it
and
is very rainbowy and so cute.
yes, I named it's Wildflower Hill because I'm in Texas, I grew up in the Texas Hill Country,
Mm,
near Austin, and, Texas is just very flat
mm.
and barren. It can have trees and green, but, like, especially out in the hill country, like, there's rolling cedar trees.
Mm, cedar's
Uh,
pretty.
yeah, cedar's pretty and makes you have allergies. But it's mostly just, like, I don't know, like, I feel like when people think of Texas, they think of, like, tumbleweeds or, like,
Just, like,
I don't
expansive
know.
nothing.
Yeah, not colorful, right? And
Yeah.
so but growing up in Texas, like, I have, like, snippets of memory of, like, being in the garden with my mom, and trying to catch butterflies on the lantanas. That's, like,
Mhm.
one of my strongest memories. Or, like which is also one of the reasons why my logo is a butterfly.
Mm,
And
mm,
so, but then, like, blue bonnets every spring,
mhm.
people, like, rush to the bluebonnet fields to take bluebonnet pictures or put their kids in the middle of these bluebonnet fields and take pictures, and it's, like, tradition for forever, and I'm sure other states have, like, similar things with different flowers, but the bluebonnet is sacred. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's all these wildflowers that come in the spring, and it's
Mhm.
just such a breath of fresh air, and it's always so colorful, and it's something that I look forward to, and
Yeah.
I know I get a lot of my inspiration, especially for my color use, from those memories of
Mhm.
just like walking in a wildflower field and like being around it specifically around spring. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um that's why I named it Wildflower Hill. And there's
Mm.
lots of wildflowers in the bundle. It's very flowery,
Yeah.
fairy, rainbow,
Yes.
ethereal. I don't know. So
Yeah.
um and I really try to encapsulate that vibe,
Mhm.
all like how much I love color in my bundle. So I
Yeah.
feel like I did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you achieved it because it is
Thank
super
you.
pretty and colorful, and it's, like, rainbowy without being the rainbow. Because I think, just, like, the standard red, orange, yellow, like,
Yeah.
it's cute and all, but I think sometimes we want, a different play on it to be more of the colors that we like to look at,
Yes.
like, the in-betweens, the not the primary color kinda thing. So,
Yes.
it's fun to see, how the rainbow gets interpreted by different people, and yours definitely has that, like you said, like, fairy ethereal, just, like, very pretty and fun and bright, and it does convey that, so I love that. So, okay, what projects do you have in the works? Like, what's coming up? What
I
can
have
people look forward to?
so many ideas. Okay. Like I said, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. My process is like, I have an idea, I'm gonna do this. And unfortunately, with ADHD, it affects my ability to stay motivated to finish something. And so,
Mm,
like, I'll be on fire, but like to the point where like I'm obsessed. It's all I can think about. I'm hyper focused. And then like I get burnt out on this thing that I'm doing. I get about like 80% done. And then I go to the next thing that I
mm,
hyper focus on and I can't focus on anything else. So I have all that said, I have a lot of ideas. I currently have my it's called Flitter Critter. It's my butterfly logo pattern.
mhm.
It is like almost done. I have been putting it off. I had some like issues with like the writing,
Mm,
um, like planning out stuff, but I fixed it. And that is hopefully coming out soon. I don't like putting labels on things or
yeah,
dates because
yeah.
it immediately makes it not fun. So I am I am waiting until I have a couple more projects coming out. I maybe by the time this airs, it will already come out, but I'm doing the solstice sampler.
Mm,
I have a block pattern coming out for that. That's done and ready to go. I'm really excited for that to release. And then the slitter critter pattern. And then I have a couple more designs all done. I have samples sewn. I just need to write the pattern. So I have lots of ideas. I'm really into exploring like different techniques. So like
mm,
I think my goal for my pattern writing, especially for 2024, is to just each quilt has different techniques. So I have one that's
mm,
like a triangle quilt. I have one that uses flying geese.
mm,
I have one that's like checkered and is using strip piecing,
mm.
like nine patch. I have one that's snowballed corners. My next one is um, this one for the solstice sampler is doing curvelet. So like I
Ooh,
really want to try like a bunch of different techniques. Um, and uh, and through that I'm learning, but I also want to teach other people to learn. I want to make sure my patterns are, um, I guess, unique enough that it's teaching a new technique, but also like fun and like a learning experience. So that's I have a lot of ideas, but
yeah.
those are my main. I have like four quilt patterns that are like in the works that I can hopefully figure out like a good release like schedule and
Yeah.
then like a system
Mhm.
and then have lots of patterns released for 2024. So
Yeah,
I think that's
fun.
what I'm mostly putting all my energy in for now. So
Awesome. I know,
yeah,
yeah, I was gonna ask, like, because I also struggle with some ADHD and some anxiety tendencies, and so, like, for me, like, I know I have certain things that help keep me on track, but do you have anything that's, like, a tried and true thing that will, even if you get off the rails a little bit here and there, is it, like, there's something that's working for you to help you systemize
yeah.
things?
So that's a really good question. What I found is when I get distracted, or not distracted, that's not the right word, but when I lose my like ability to focus, it's usually because I'm getting burnt out. So number
Mm,
one, I need to take a step back. Um, Maybe don't sew. But also I struggle with a lot of guilt.
mm,
because of my inability to do something. So if I like don't finish a project, I'm like, oh, I feel guilty because I can't finish this project, or oh,
Yeah.
I feel bad about wasting fabric, or maybe
Mhm.
set a deadline and it passed, and I'm like, I feel guilty about that. So just a lot of guilt. So the thing that's been working for me the most is to just go ahead and just ride my, I don't know how to describe it, my ADHD wave. So like
Mhm.
I'm going to be hyper focused, I'm going to ride it. And then if I lose steam, if I lose that motivation to finish that project, or if I'm
Yeah.
just not feeling it, I'm just not going to do it. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to worry about it. And I'm just going to go ahead and like let myself start a new project, or
Mhm.
like maybe play with fabric and get a new idea in my head. And so then I'll get a new idea, I'll get on fire for that. And then eventually I will cycle back around to this first project where I now am like motivated to do it. I'm excited to do it, happy to do it. And so I found that that works for me, but that's mostly because I struggle with a lot of guilt,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I don't want to feel guilty. I don't want to feel bad about not finishing a project. I'm doing this because I love doing it, and I don't need to feel anything other than joy from this like creative process. And so if I'm
Mm.
gonna, that's where my trigger is. But like
Yeah.
that's come through years of like recognizing my own behaviors and trying to
Mhm.
figure out like what it is that is causing my executive dysfunction, I guess I'll say. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think guilt is like it is like a common thing for, that like burnout that ADHDers, feel after hyperfixating. And so I think if you can recognize it, I think that's great because you're allowing yourself the space to just be who you are and
Mhm.
experience this thing that you've created how you want to experience it, right? Like, I think if we let other people tell us or inform how we experience like our own businesses or our own journey in quilting, like that's where we can get that burnout so fast, or we can get felt like, feel like we're being pushed into a corner in some way. And so I love that you're listening to yourself and listening to your body. And like, I think ultimately that's like such an achievement to be able to do that and not feel the guilt of like, no, this is just how where my brain needs some rest. And this is where, you know, I can recharge by doing something else. And so I think trying to find ways to like explain those cycles to yourself without using guilt is like it's like a big win.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, and being able to, like, let go of this idea that, like, I have to finish this,
hmm
it was a big thing because, like, when I didn't finish things with my previous business, it
hmm
ended up leading to a failure, and so but it was because I was burning myself out, right? And
hmm
it's because I was not happy, and I didn't want to do this thing, or I didn't want to say yes to this custom order or whatever. And so now that I am allowing myself to just be like, it's okay. I don't have to finish this thing.
Yeah.
Um, I also feel like that might be a little bit of a privilege though, like some
Mm.
people don't have the luxury to just be like, I don't want to do this today. So,
Yeah.
um, but it's a balance. That's why it's so hard to run your own business.
Mhm.
Sometimes I don't have that luxury. Like sometimes I have to hit a deadline, or I need to do this thing to pay my bills for my
Mhm.
business. And so it's hard. It's a very hard balance.
Mhm.
And I wish I could give everyone the secret formula to like
Right.
fix it
Yeah.
and make it all better, but it's just a learning process for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just honoring
Hmm.
yourself in the process too of like giving yourself grace to like try things and fail and pick yourself back up and figure out something else. Like, okay, that did not work for me, but now I'm going to find something that will, or I'm going to try this other thing that hopefully will work. And like for me too, I had to remove the morality from like doing care tasks or like, that guilty conscience is like, I'm not a bad person just because I didn't clean my sink right or, do the dishes immediately or, get this pattern done right away or, I maybe missed the deadline on a quilt, but it's like the person's not mad or,
Right.
whatever it is. It's like there's moral ambiguity to it. Like it doesn't, there's no good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. And finding that space for me has been super helpful. It doesn't make me a bad person. It makes me human. That
Right.
life is life. And sometimes you can't do things in the certain amount of time, and that's okay. And I think as long as you're honest with yourself in that and saying, like, I really wanted to meet this deadline and I wasn't able to, and that's okay. Like, I'll get it done. But yeah,
And
it's
also
interesting.
those are like sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Those are
You're
also
good.
learning opportunities too for you.
Yeah.
Like, why wasn't I able to get this done? Like,
Hmm.
where was it, and how can I set more reasonable expectations later? Not only for me, but also for my customer or for this brand that I'm partnering with, or for this
Hmm.
thing. Like, am I being realistic? Am I setting realistic expectations for everybody involved here? And
Yeah.
how can I make it better? And so um, lots of failure is
Yeah.
usually the answer,
Yep.
um, and
Yep.
and then just pivoting and adjusting. So
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. And
mhm.
I think that's just key for everything, like allowing yourself to fail and pivot. And
Yep, fail and pivot.
that's how we learn. That's how we grow. And if we never take the chances to fail, then we won't ever grow and we won't ever learn how to be more successful at no matter what we're trying. So I love that.
Yeah, I'm still learning that. I'm still failing and pivoting all the time. So
Same, same. But it's like built in now. It's like I have so much more grace and compassion for myself when it
yes.
happens than I used to. So it's like, yes, it's a given that I'm going to fail and that something's going to go wrong and I'm going to have to find solutions. But like, if I hold on to that mindset that there's a solution for everything and it may not look like how I originally thought it would look, that's okay. And like holding space for that. But I'll stop therapizing.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Uh,
coming on the show. This has been so fun to get to know you. And
yes.
I love you and your stuff even more now. So I'm just like
Oh,
so excited that we got to do this.
I
And
know. Thank you so much for having me on. It was really fun. You are so easy to talk to,
oh, thank
and
you.
and I am definitely going to go back and listen to your Katarina. I think I saw you interview a few more designers too.
Yeah, I've
Um,
got a pretty good slate of guests
yeah,
on. So
I know you have Fran
yeah,
with Riley Blake, and
yeah,
I love Fran.
yeah.
I
I
hope
actually got
she
to
hears
meet her
this.
in person first. Like we were up in Spokane because I have family up there, and we interviewed the owners of the Quilting Bee quilt shop, and she was doing like a trunk show for her first line that came out with Riley Blake and like her patterns, and they were like, you should come meet Fran. And I was like, who's Fran? They're like, oh my gosh, you don't know Fran. And so like the owners of this shop introduced me to her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm up here all the time. And she's like, crazy, I live here. And anyway, so she's great.
I met her at QuiltCon. I think that was the first time I met her.
Oh
Um, and she's very fun.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
Fran.
she's great. She's great. I love her too. So yeah, go, there's a lot of good people. So I've been
Yeah.
very lucky and very blessed to talk to so many people that I love and admire. So, well, thank you again. And so let's before we depart, where can people find you online if they don't know yet?
At Kindred Quilt Co, everything.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook, Pinterest. I am working on my Pinterest. I've like kind of figured out how to do Pinterest, and like
Ooh.
I every time I open up my Pinterest, it's like I get so inspired. So if you want like color inspiration, I've repinned like so much color inspiration. If you ever need like an idea for a color palette, go check that out. And then yeah, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok, but not really. I don't know what I'm doing. Um, and yeah,
Cool.
and I'm on Threads, but are we on that anymore? I don't know.
It's I get on there sometimes. I'm like, what are we doing? Like
This
what
is fun.
I mean, it's fun, but it's like I don't know. It feels just like one more thing to like look at, and
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't have the time. So, no. I mean, it's fine, but anyway, okay, well, we'll tag. I will put the links in the show notes so that
Okay.
people can get to your stuff super easy.
Yes.
And we will look forward to future projects. And I'm
Yes.
encouraging everybody to go buy your bundle while it's still available because
Yes.
there's only like a few more months left, right?
Yeah, I'm not 100,000% sure about this, but so our contracts end like February. So I'm sure they'll still sell some
Mm, if they have them
into
left. Yeah.
2024 after that if they have them left.
Okay.
But yeah, once they're gone after that. So
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully everybody checks your stuff out. And yeah, thanks again. I can't wait to
thank you.
keep chatting and
Yes.
inspiring.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. It was so fun.
Yeah.